In this episode, Jen Majors shares the heart behind her book, Wholehearted Healing, and the practical 7-step framework she uses to help others begin healing emotional wounds, renewing their minds, reconnecting with God, and stepping into purpose. Rooted in her own journey of healing from childhood trauma, Jen walks listeners through the 7 steps from her free guide: awareness, breath and reconnection, intention, compassionate self forgiveness, gratitude, vision, and creativity and movement. This episode is for anyone who feels stuck, overwhelmed, disconnected from themselves, or unsure where to begin. With faith, honesty, and compassion, Jen reminds listeners that healing is possible, peace is possible, and a wholehearted life is possible. Welcome to the Wholehearted Impact podcast with Jen Majors, where we talk about healing, faith, identity, purpose, and the courage to live fully alive. If you're ready to break free from what has held you back, renew your mind, and walk in truth, freedom, and wholehearted purpose, you are in the right place. Welcome back to the Wholehearted Impact podcast. I'm Jen Majors, and I am so grateful to be with you today. This podcast is for the woman, the leader, the parent, the business owner, the believer, the survivor, the overcomer, and the person who knows deep down that there has to be more than just getting through the day. Today, I want to talk to you about something very close to my heart, my book, Wholehearted Healing, and the 7 steps to wholehearted healing that I write about in my book. These are the steps that I share in my free guide, and they are rooted in the healing journey I write about in my book, especially my own journey of healing from childhood trauma, survival patterns, emotional wounds, and the places in my life where I had to learn how to stop abandoning myself and begin coming back to God, to the truth, and to my wholeness. This book was not written from theory. It was written from lived experience. It came from pain, growth, surrender, faith, mistakes, rebuilding, and learning how to become honest about what was actually happening inside of me. My hope is that when you hear this today, you do not hear a perfect person giving you the perfect formula. You hear a woman who has walked through hard things and is still walking with God, still learning, still healing, and still becoming. Because healing is not about becoming someone else. Healing is about being restored to your wholeness. Part 1, why I wrote Wholehearted Healing. I wrote Wholehearted Healing because I know what it feels like to live fragmented, to be successful on the outside, but absolutely exhausted on the inside, to show up for everyone else while silently wondering, who is going to show up for me? To love God, but still wrestle with fear, shame, grief, anxiety, overfunctioning, people pleasing, control, emotional exhaustion, and old survival patterns. For so long, I thought healing meant I needed to fix myself. Healing is not about fixing what is defective. Healing is about restoring what was wounded. There's a big difference. You are not defective. You are not too far gone. You are not too much. You are not beyond healing. You may be tired. You may be guarded. You may be disappointed, or you may be carrying things you were never meant to carry or never meant to carry them alone. But you are not broken beyond repair. And that is the message of wholehearted healing. That with God, with truth, compassion, courage, and intentional action, we can heal, we can grow, and we can be restored. Part 2. What wholehearted healing means. When I say wholehearted healing, I mean healing that touches the entire whole person, your mind, your heart, your body, your spirit, your relationships, your leadership, your identity, the choices you make, and your purpose. So often we try to heal one part of ourselves while ignoring the other. We pray and we never process, or we process and we never actually surrender, or we understand something intellectually, but our body is still living in fear. Or we keep telling ourselves we're fine, but our reactions, our triggers, our exhaustion, and our patterns are telling a different story. Wholehearted healing says God wants access to it all, not just the polished parts, not just the spiritual parts, not just the parts we know how to explain, all of it. The grief, the fear, the shame, the trauma, the disappointment, the insecurity, the control, the striving, the exhaustion, the places where we are still trying to prove we are worthy. Wholehearted healing invites us to bring our whole selves to God and to say, here I am. Heal what I cannot heal alone. I'll share a story. And I can remember being back at church when I first started going to church as an adult. I had two small children. I had just quit doing drugs. I was just trying to clean up my life. And here I am at church, and I am pouring everything I have out and crying out to God. And for the next 5 years, cried out to God. I remember going to the altar and laying myself at the altar and kneeling at the altar and getting prayed for and praying for myself. And I asked God to take these things from me. I asked Him to heal me, to take the pain from me, to take the issues that I was dealing with from me. And yes, I do believe that I'm sure God healed me in so many places. And I'm sure God gave me strength in so many places. And yet, and still, I was still needing tools to process through, to walk through my day to day life. And I can remember distinctly being told that I wasn't getting over it or I wasn't really giving it to God. And so I remember going to God at the altar and crying out to Him. And I remember distinctly Him telling me, daughter, stand up. This is your cross. Stand up, take your cross, and keep walking with me. As if this message was for me to learn how to process, learn the tools that I needed to learn in order to move forward in my life, in order to truly heal. And so I'm here partnering with God, and I'm here to tell you, if you're like me, where you've gone to God and you've, taken your hands and you've said, here I am, God, here's all the things, and you've surrendered, and then you're still left with this stuff at the end where God's saying, this is part of your process. I know the feeling. I can feel disappointed. I can feel heavy. And I just invite you to understand that God's right there with you, that you don't have to bear that weight alone, that God will direct your path and direct your steps so that you can do the work. And here we are doing the work together. Part 3, the 7 steps to wholehearted healing. Today, I want to walk you through the actual 7 steps that are in my free guide, 7 steps to wholehearted healing. These steps are simple, practical, faith-based, and deeply intentional. They are not 7 magic tricks. They are not a checklist to perform perfectly. They are a pathway, a healing pathway, a way to begin becoming aware, reconnecting with God and yourself, renewing your mind, and moving toward peace, joy, and purpose. Step 1 is be aware of what's inside. The first step is awareness. That's where healing begins. Many of us have learned to ignore, suppress, minimize, or outrun what is happening inside of us. We stay busy, we numb out, we overfunction, we avoid hard emotions because they feel very uncomfortable or overwhelming or unsafe. Awareness is the beginning of healing because you cannot heal what you are not willing to name. This step asks us to gently begin noticing. What am I feeling? What am I avoiding? What keeps triggering me? Where am I overreacting? Where am I shutting down? What patterns do I keep repeating? What beliefs am I holding that are shaping my choices? Where do I feel stuck? And why don't I know why? And this is important. Awareness is not about shame. It is not about beating yourself up. It is not about saying, "What's wrong with me?" It is about lovingly asking, "What is happening inside of me?" That question changes everything. Because when you begin to notice your emotions, your patterns, triggers, beliefs, and reactions without judgment, you create space for truth, compassion, and change. I can remember being in ILA. You guys, I talk about Inspire Leadership Academy a lot because it was such a pivotal time in my life. And I can remember one of my first experiences in ILA sitting in this sacred circle of about 20 people and Tracy walking us through a closed eye process where she would just have us close our eyes, put our feet flat on the floor, sit comfortably, and she would walk us through a process to bring about awareness or to bring about healing or to bring about a closure or something like that. And in this particular closed eye process, we were to bring up an emotion or a feeling. And then we were to tell or figure out or feel where we felt that feeling inside of our body. And I can remember trying to feel my body, and I couldn't feel my body. It was one of my very first awarenesses that I had spent so many years protecting myself by numbing my body, by suppressing my emotions, by pushing my emotions down, by dissociating myself and living outside of myself, unintegrated. It was such an aha moment, and I go back to that moment so often during my healing journey, and I am so grateful now that I've done the work and I can feel my body. I'm so grateful now to where I can do a closed eye process and I can feel the feeling and I can feel where I feel it inside of my body and I can process through it. I can let the feelings come and it doesn't feel very scary. I don't need to run from it or numb it. I'm very grateful for that. Awareness is not weakness. Awareness is courage. And sometimes the bravest thing we can do is simply tell the truth about what is actually happening inside of you. Step 2, breath and reconnect. The second step is to breathe and to reconnect. This step matters because healing is not only mental and spiritual. Your body matters in healing. When you are dysregulated, anxious, overwhelmed, shut down, emotionally flooded, or stuck in fear, it becomes very hard to think clearly. It becomes very hard to feel safe or to even respond wisely. Many of us try to think our way out of pain, but sometimes the first step is not thinking harder. Sometimes the first step is just breathing, slowing down, taking a deep breath, coming back into this present moment, reconnecting with our body, with your breath, and with the presence of God. Our breath is always with us. Our breath is miraculous. And it is one of the simplest ways to calm our nervous system and to create space between what we feel and how we respond. Breath interrupts panic, racing thoughts, emotional flooding, shutdown, reactivity, and fear based decisions. Sometimes healing begins with one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly and a simple inhale, hold, exhale, and to quietly remind yourself God is with me. I am safe in this moment. This does not mean every situation around you is perfect by any means. It means you are learning to come back to peace before you react from pain. You're allowed to slow down. You're allowed to come back home to yourself. You're allowed to feel safe in your body. Step 3, set clear intentions. The third step is setting clear intentions. Healing does not happen by accident. If you want a different life, we have to begin living with greater awareness and greater intention. An intention is not just a goal, it is a conscious inner decision about how you want to live, think, respond, and become. So many of us live on autopilot. We react from old wounds. We respond from fear. We make decisions from survival. We repeat patterns because we have never stopped long enough to ask, is this who I want to be? Setting clear intentions helps us partner with God in our healing. And prayer is the highest form of intention. Intention helps us say, I might not be able to control everything that happens to me, but I can choose how I want to show up. I can choose to pause instead of react. I can choose truth instead of shame. I can choose peace instead of chaos. I can choose to speak kindly to myself. I can choose to trust God with what I cannot control. I can choose one small, brave, intentional step toward healing. In the guide, I invite people to complete simple statements like, today, I want to feel. Today, I choose to be. Today, I want to experience. And today, I declare I am. So that looks like today, I want to feel blessed and loved and supported and peaceful and present. I want to feel great and healthy and beautiful and confident. And today I choose to be present and purposeful and kind and loving and supportive. I choose to be friendly. I choose to be energetic. I choose to be healthy. Today I want to experience miracles. I want to experience love and support. I want to experience joy and peace. I want to experience connection. Today, I declare I am strong. I am safe. I'm kind. I'm loving and supportive. I am abundant. I have great health. Those questions may sound simple, but they are powerful because they help you stop drifting and to start aligning. Your healing requires intention. The life you desire to live requires intention. The peace you long to feel requires intention. Your purpose requires your intention. Step 4, practice compassionate self forgiveness. And I want to slow down here because this one is so important. Many people say they want to heal, and they're still carrying deep judgment, deep shame, self hatred, and condemnation. And here's the truth: you cannot shame yourself into wholeness. You cannot hate yourself into healing. Compassionate self forgiveness does not mean denying mistakes. It does not mean avoiding responsibility. It does not mean pretending pain did not happen. It means releasing harsh self condemnation and allowing God's grace to meet you in your humanity. There is a difference between conviction and shame. Conviction leads you toward truth, repentance, healing, and growth. Shame tells you that you're bad, broken, unworthy, and way beyond repair. Healing requires us to stop partnering with shame. Some of us are still judging ourselves for how we survived. We judge ourselves for staying too long, for not speaking up, for coping in unhealthy ways, for not knowing then what we know now, for carrying fear, for struggling, for being human. And compassion says, I can be honest about what happened without hating myself. I can take responsibility without destroying myself. I can admit where I need to grow while still believing I am worthy of love and belonging. This is the heart of compassionate self forgiveness. It is not weakness, it is grace. And grace is often the soil where real transformation begins. Step 5, choose gratitude. Now, I want to be clear about something. Gratitude is not pretending that life is super easy. It is not ignoring pain. It is not forcing yourself to be positive. It is not saying everything's fine. when everything is not fine. Gratitude is choosing to remain open to God's goodness, even while you're healing. Pain can narrow our focus until all we see is what's wrong, missing, broken, unfair, and painful. Gratitude gently widens your perspective. It helps you notice beauty, provision, growth, grace, and the ways God is still present. Gratitude does not erase grief. Gratitude creates room for hope. A grateful heart is not blind to pain. It simply refuses to let pain tell the whole story. And it matters because if all we ever focus on is what hurt us, we can begin to believe that pain is the whole entire story. But it is not. There is still grace. There is still beauty. There's still provision. There's still growth. There's still purpose. And you still have breath in your lungs. There is still life ahead of you. In this guide, I invite people to begin a simple daily gratitude practice. One thing I can thank God for today is, or one strength I see growing in me is, or one hard thing that may still hold a hidden gift is. It's not about calling pain good. It is about asking God to show us how we can bring growth, wisdom, compassion, strength, or purpose even from places that hurt. Gratitude strengthens our resilience. It strengthens our perspective. It strengthens peace and it strengthens hope. And sometimes gratitude is how we remind our hearts pain is real and it's part of the human experience, but suffering is optional. And in all things, God is still good. Step 6 is create your vision. Healing is not only about what you're leaving behind, it is also about who you're becoming. And this is powerful because for so many people, trauma, pain, disappointment, and survival mode have made it very hard to dream. It's made it hard to hope. It's made it hard to imagine something better, hard to believe that life can look different. But vision matters. When you begin to see the kind of woman, life, relationships, peace, purpose, and future you are being called into, you give your healing direction. You are not just healing for something, you are healing for something. You're healing for peace. You're healing for purpose. You're healing for joy. You're healing for love. You're healing for courage. You're healing for freedom. You're healing for impact. You are healing for wholehearted living. In the guide, I invite people to meet their future wholehearted self, to ask, how does she think? What does she believe? What does she no longer tolerate? What is she making space for? How does she speak to herself? What does she live with more of? And this is not a fantasy. This is faith filled vision. And sometimes before you can live differently, you have to begin seeing things differently. You have to let God expand your vision beyond survival, beyond the old identity, beyond the trauma, beyond the shame, beyond the fear, beyond the belief that this is just how life will always be. Creating your vision helps you remember your story is not over. God is still forming you, and healing is moving you somewhere. And now, step 7, embrace creativity and movement. And I love this step because it reminds us that healing is not only spiritual and mental, it's physical, it is emotional, it is embodied. Creativity and movement help you reconnect with life, release emotion, and access parts of healing that words alone cannot always reach. Sometimes your body needs movement. Sometimes your heart needs music. Sometimes your soul needs beauty. Sometimes you need worship. Sometimes you need journaling or dancing. Sometimes you need a walk outside. Sometimes you need to paint, write, stretch, sing, color, garden, create, and simply sit quietly and listen to nature. These practices do not have to be complicated to be powerful. Joy, expression, and movement are not extras in healing. They are part of how healing happens. This step helps you reconnect with your body. It helps release emotion. It interrupts heaviness. It helps recover joy. It restores energy. It helps you feel alive again. And for those of us who have lived in survival mode, feeling alive again can be very unfamiliar. Sometimes we have become so used to functioning that we have forgotten how to enjoy. We have forgotten how to play. We have forgotten how to create. We have forgotten what makes us feel like ourselves. But healing invites us back into life, not just survival. Life, joy, beauty, expression, movement, presence, and wholehearted living. Part 4. Why these steps matter. These 7 steps matter because they help us heal in a whole person way. They help us become aware of what's inside. They help us calm our body and reconnect with God. They help us live with intention. They help us release shame and practice self-forgiveness. They help us choose gratitude without denying pain. They help us create a vision for who we are becoming. And they help us reconnect with joy, creativity, movement, and with life. This is not about perfection. Remember, it's not about fixing yourself. It's about becoming honest, tender, brave, open to what requires healing and restoration inside of you. And I believe this with my whole entire heart. Healing is holy work. It is not selfish. It is not weak. It is not unnecessary. When we heal, we become more available to God, to ourselves, and to the people we are called to love and lead. Unhealed pain does not stay private. It leaks. It leaks into our relationships. It leaks into our leadership, our parenting, our businesses, our decision making, our faith, our bodies. It leaks into our communication, our ability to rest, our ability to receive love, our ability to live in peace. And so, you choosing healing, you are not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your family, for your legacy, your calling, your community, the people you serve, your leadership, and your future. Part 5, an invitation. So today, I want to invite you to begin. Not perfectly, not dramatically, just honestly. Ask yourself, what am I aware of today that I've been avoiding? Where do I want to pause, breathe, and reconnect? What intention do I want to set for this season of my life? Where do I want to practice compassionate self-forgiveness? Where am I judging myself? What can I thank God for today? What vision is God inviting me to create? What creativity, movement, or joy am I excited to make room for again? You do not have to heal everything today, but you can take one honest step forward. And one honest step with God can change the direction of your life. If this episode spoke to you, I would love for you to download my free guide, 7 Steps to Wholehearted Healing. It is a practical, faith-based workbook designed to help you begin healing emotional wounds, renew your mind, and step into purpose. And if you want to go deeper, I also invite you to read my book, Wholehearted Healing, where I share more of my personal story, including my journey of healing from childhood trauma and learning how to live with more peace, purpose, faith, and wholeness. You can find the free guide, the book, and more resources at my website, wholeheartedimpact.com. And if you know someone who is in a healing season, send them this episode. Sometimes one conversation, one reminder, and one honest step can be the beginning of someone's freedom. Thank you for spending time with me today. Remember, you are not broken. You are not too late. Your story is not over. Healing is possible. Peace is possible. A wholehearted life is possible. I am Jen Majors, and this is the Wholehearted Impact Podcast. I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of the Wholehearted Impact Podcast. If this encouraged you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs hope today. For more resources, coaching, speaking, and my book, visit wholeheartedimpact.com.